name is Dr. Rick Saguil.
And action. Hey, Jay, this is Kirk again.
And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, and just finishing up office hours today. So Joe had a question about teaching hygiene. And when we all know hygiene, kind of like washing your hands after you wipe your butt, taking a shower after you've walked in the mud, washing your shoes off, all that stuff's very common. But in this disaster that we're having of coronavirus, you have to know how this thing behaves. First off, let me show you what happens in an aerosolized particle. If something is small enough, it can be aerosolized, and it was thought that it's just droplet spread. This is droplet spread. Hopefully you can see this. Oh, I didn't spray it on there, but that's Febreze, right? And you can see the spray come out because it's mist. And it's concentrated coming out, but as it diffuses, it becomes less and less noticeable to the naked eye. Now I can smell that, although most of those particles have dropped to the ground because these droplets are big and they're heavier than air and they fall down. That's just the way gravity works. But I can still smell it a bit. So I guess kind of like a fart. If you've ever gone into an elevator or gone into a room after somebody let go of some gas, that's methane, even though they've not been there for a while, it'll still smell bad. So I asked my son, who is really smart with calculating, about numbers. And we were able to figure out the coronavirus particle is about 125 nanometers. And a methane particle molecule is about 0.38 nanometers. So methane tinier than the virus particle. And if you can smell methane after somebody, I think in college, they're just saying, oh, I walked into that with my mouth open. And the imagery is great because you figure there's probably particles existing in the atmosphere, and methane is lighter than air. So it does hang out as a particle. Whether that's aerosolized or not, that can be argued, but you can walk into a gas, a cloud of fart, and you can still smell it, and you have the imagery that, ooh, it got all over your skin, which technically it did. But if you can think of the viral particles of COVID or the SARS Corona 2 as existing, if it truly is aerosolized, and it exists in a room or in the atmosphere because it might be a little bit equal to or lighter than air. I don't think it's lighter than air, but if it takes a long time before it settles down, as a person moves out, the theory is that it can be in aerosol form 3 hours after the infected person was in the room. Now the question is whether at 3 hours it's still as contagious, or if it still manifests the virility when it immediately leaves the person. And then there's statistics on copper being a couple hours, plastics and stainless steel being a couple days. And I think it's all, it depends on the study, but it's all to demonstrate that this is a very fastidious organism. So you cover up before you go. You hopefully your car, your keys, your jacket, your glasses are clean because you did that at home and you can control all that. But if you put all this stuff on and you drive and you're clean when you drive, as soon as you get inside a store, you open the door, or say you go into the store, it's automatic doors. You go into the store and say, hey, I want to buy this quercetin. How much is it? Too much. I'm going to put it back. You're assuming that nobody touched that quercetin bottle, but I just made my hands possibly contagious because I picked up the virus that was on that. Remember, it can exist on steel for 2 days, plastic for maybe 5 days. But again, it depends on the study. Bottom line is this could have the contagion because you weren't watching this bottle on the shelves of Fruitful Yield for the last 5 days. Who knows? And the Fruitful Yield guys can't wipe down every bottle. So if I'm going to assume everybody that comes into my office is carrying the virus because I don't have any test kits, we're not doing any screening, or we're not doing universal screening yet, then you have to assume that all your fomites, and that means objects, fomites will have the potential virus. So if you play it by ear, which is going to be really obsessive compulsive, you play it by ear and assume everything outside your house is contagious, then you have to, after you pick up your quercetin, by the way, I'll talk about quercetin in a second, but after you pick up this bottle, or you pick up a pen, or you touch a doorknob, you have to assume that this is dirty. And when you take this off, you can easily just pull it off like this, and you're free. But what do you do with this hand? Now, you can, because this hand's free, you can go underneath and start pulling it off. Eventually, you're going to have to reach underneath, and the fingers will have to be, you'll just have to get rid of it. Now, this touched my hand, so I don't want to get into the nitty gritty, but that's the way you're supposed to be careful, and then you throw everything away. Bottom line is, if you're clean when you leave the house, you will be dirty by the time you get back to the house, so both of these have to come off. And after they come off, you've done a good job with keeping everything off and handling. You can wash your hands. But before washing your hands, you got to wipe this down. So you have to get some wipes. I don't have any wipes here. You have to wipe this down, put it on the side, wipe down the zinc bottle, put it on the side, wipe down the hydroxychloroquine. I bought this hydroxychloroquine a while ago. Going back to my suggestion about cleaning, and before you wash your hands, you have to clean off I use this to press the keys on the credit card machine, or hit the touch screen on Redbox if I rent a movie. And I have to assume that this tip is dirty, so every time I go into the house, everything gets wiped down, put it away, we're clean, because this is my clean shelf. This down here is my dirty shelf. You have to make it like that. Kind of like having your boots when it's snowing outside. You have an area where you keep everything wet, and you step out onto your slippers, and you don't track all the wet snow, dirty snow into the house. You have to use special house shoes so that you don't drag the crap from outside into the house. So you keep the dirty stuff there, you keep the clean stuff there, and you switch over gingerly, cautiously, mindfully, and then you keep the house on the inside clean. That's what you have to do with everything on the inside. So if you reuse your gloves because you can't afford them, you got to be really careful with at least knowing which side is inside, which is outside, and grabbing them as best as you can by the edges, maybe, if you can't afford too many gloves, and it's going to get to a point where we don't have that many gloves available, unless there's a plethora of gloves and masks and PPEs and test kits that happens to flood the United States, which I doubt. So that's the way I would play it. And then you always have to go in. Maybe if you put a pen mark on the outside, you'll always know which side's out. And you just reload it, and you assume that you can always clean the outside too of your gloves, and you wipe them down so that when you get in your car, you're still clean. And I put a list of acceptable cleaning products that are used for or have been proven with SARS-CoV-1 in the past, 2003. So it's easy available. It's from the EPA. If you don't know what to buy, check out the EPA's database, and they have things that help to disinfect against SARS. So you certainly can't take a dish plate or a container of food from a grandpa and say, "Thank you very much," and then wipe it down. That's very rude. So you just have to know that at this point in time, I'm taking this container and I'm holding it. I'm not going to wipe my face all over the container, but consider it dirty so that, "Hello, how you doing? Thank you very much. Okay, see you next week." Then you go in your car, you put it away, and then when you have the time before you step into the clean part of your house, you wipe down the container. Now, hopefully the stuff on the inside is clean. You can't really wipe food down, but at least you can keep the viral load low. The chances will be lower when you wipe stuff down. So it is important to be cautious about that, because I see people just putting their gloves on, and they go like this. Or they touch the cash register with the same hand, with the same gloves, and you defeat the purpose of keeping it. You just have gloves that are dirty. So, or I saw somebody pick up a cleaner from the ground with the same gloves, put it away, and then went on to the food. So some people, and you can't blame them, some people aren't aware of a sterile technique. I mean, in surgery, you are scolded if you have bad technique, and you are told scrub out. So there's actually a technique for you scrub on the outside, scrub on the palms, scrub on the nails, and you wipe like this under the water. That's you press with the foot pedal, and you go like this so it drips downward into your elbows. And that's how you have the gown in like this. The gown is put around you, it's tied in, and then somebody opens the glove for you, put the glove in, and you're good to go. So that's how sterile techniques will keep people that are going through surgery out of having sepsis or bacterial infections. And doctors are very good with that. Phlebotomists are very good with that. People who work in the healthcare industry are very good with that. And people who work in the food industry should be just as good. So if you don't ever do that stuff, you would think, I don't have to wash my hands. Well, you do now. So it's just very important. So the bottom line, Joe, is that it takes practice and takes knowledge and mindfulness. But if you're in a hurry, you're going to mess up. Don't freak out. If you have wipes that are approved by the EPA and you mess up because, oh, damn it, I touched it, or I just picked it up, oh no, I don't have my gloves on, that's okay. Wipe it down, put it away, wipe down everything you have to wipe down, put it away, then wash your hands before you go and go like this, or before you go like this, or before you eat something. As far as learning this as a technique, we're going to have to learn this because SARS-CoV-2 is going to be around for a while. I mean, if you looked at the new Hopkins data, you see a whole bunch of speckling now. And I assumed it was going to happen in this week because of all the extra test kits, although they're still coming out, I guess. But with all the extra testing, you're going to see a bloom. And within about 2 weeks of the initial start of the bloom, which was last week, so next week, that is when you'll see a surge of sick people. So I hopefully will keep the borders closed and keep flights grounded for now, because I have a feeling that we're going to have surges of infection come April, first week, second week. And if that happens, if we can diffuse them into the hospital, the smaller, instead of the big peak, the smaller peaks, diffuse them into the hospital, get them taken care of. I think the hospitals in the United States are awesome. And there are a lot of vents. Since they're not doing surgery anymore, and the military has a lot of vents, I think we'll be called into surgery centers where you get outpatient surgery. Every surgical suite has a vent in it. It's supposed to have a vent. So since there's not doing any surgeries in those outpatient places, they're going to have some extra vents freed up. I mean, the ICUs in the hospital and some of the CCUs have vents, but I think there'll be a surplus of other ones to call in. And then there's the military too. They have a bunch of backup vents, I hope, I hear. So if there's a surge, great. Diffuse them, support them, get them over the virus, get them out. And then take the next surge, diffuse them, take care of them, and get them out. So that's the way I think if you have small surges throughout the summer, it'll happen. Because again, you're taking a peak that goes up and down real fast, and you're dispersing it over the course of time, but you're keeping it under radar so that the hospital system isn't overwhelmed. But it's going to be a longer suffering. So the data that is there from China will be a little different than what we're experiencing, because we were fortunate enough to see and experience the disease later, but unfortunately, on the back end of that, we also don't have the same kind of response as far as masks, PPEs, that they had with the initial breakouts. And we can also have the privilege of learning and observing what's worked for other places with their breakouts. So I hope that this stay-at-home policy is going to fan out. I think there's still going to be some deaths, but if you calculate, at least from China and Italy, the total population and the amount of deaths, it's still a very small percentage chance that you will have death. If you calculate it for the amount of positives and the amount of deaths, it's a little bit different, but you have to take the whole population, not just the amount. The whole population, and you divide it by the amount of deaths, or you compare it to the amount of deaths in, I think China was 3,000 per 1.3 billion people. And that's a small percentage. Every life matters, but I think on the whole, it's still, I think I calculated it, I said it on my hike, but I calculated it to 0.00002, I believe was the number. So hopefully we'll all make it through this. I think that if I have always stressed this, if you're not healthy, get healthy. If you're already healthy, maintain it. I'll be doing another video for Lou, who is just beside herself as far as what to do at this point, because it's tough when you go from exercise, eat, pick your foods, and meditate outside the house, and then you have to take all this and go inside your house. It's a totally different setup. It's kind of like moving back in with your parents. It's like, I know what to do, but I don't want to do it with my parents around as far as living. So it takes an adjustment. But I think if we check out my video, I don't want to talk more about it. I'll do it tomorrow, but hopefully we'll all get through this. God forbid if you get sick, but if you get sick and you're prepared by leading a healthy lifestyle, you should ramp through this real quick. The question is whether you infect everybody else, and we don't want to do that, and this is how we do it. Not only cleaning, but also taking our vitamins and eating properly. So hopefully, Joe, this gives you a little bit of an idea. Pass this on.